He prayed for his grandmother for 213 days. But on day 214, something happened. Jennifer Thompson watched her young son through the glass door of room 312 at Mercy General Hospital in Denver as he whispered yet another prayer by his grandmother's bedside. The 6-year-old boy didn't know the doctors had already lost hope. It was on Ethan's birthday that everything changed. His grandmother, Margaret, had been helping Jennifer prepare the party when she suddenly stopped mid-sentence, looked at her grandson with a confused expression, and collapsed on the kitchen floor. 7 months had passed since then, and she remained in a vegetative state after the stroke left her connected to machines and completely unresponsive. "Grandma Maggie, it's me again," Ethan whispered, his small hands clasped over the white blanket. "Today at school," the teacher asked about the drawing I made. I told her it was you awake, playing with me in the backyard like before. Jennifer wiped away a stubborn tear. As a cleaning worker at a large office, she worked from 5 in the morning until 2 in the afternoon so she could pick Ethan up from school and bring him to the hospital every day. It was a routine that had lasted 213 consecutive days. "Mom, are you there?" Ethan turned his face toward the door. "I am, sweetheart. Just waiting for you to finish talking to Grandma." The boy opened his school backpack and pulled out a small, well-worn blue notebook. The first pages were filled with colorful drawings in numbered squares. From page 10 onward, the drawings became simpler, done in a hurry, but they were all there. Each day marked in different colors. "Look, Grandma, today is day 213. He showed the notebook to the motionless woman. "Only 152 more days until a whole year. Then you have to wake up, okay?" Dr. Michael Williams, the neurologist in charge of the case, appeared in the hallway at that moment. His steps were slow, heavy. Jennifer knew that expression all too well. "Mrs. Thompson, can we talk for a moment?" "Ethan, stay here with Grandma. I'll be right back." In the hallway, far from the boy's ears, the doctor confirmed what Jennifer had feared. "There's been no progress, Jennifer. It's been over 7 months. I have to be honest with you. The chances of recovery at this stage are almost non-existent." "Almost non-existent isn't zero, doctor. I understand your hope, but you need to think about Ethan too. This daily ritual, it might be harming his emotional development." "Harming?" Jennifer raised her voice slightly. "Doctor, since my mother had the stroke, my son hasn't missed a single day of school. His grades are still good. He eats, plays, smiles. The only thing that changed is this determination to come here every day. But Jennifer? With all due respect, doctor, do you have children?" The doctor lowered his gaze. He was young, freshly graduated, still learning that medicine wasn't just science. "No, I don't." "No. Then let me take care of mine." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, continuing. That afternoon, when Ethan finished his prayers, he and his mother walked to the bus stop in silence. The boy swung his legs on the bench, watching the street activity. "Mom, why did the doctor say I shouldn't come here anymore?" Jennifer froze. She didn't know Ethan had overheard part of the conversation. "Who said you heard the doctor say that?" "I heard you talking. He thinks I'm hurting myself, doesn't he?" Her son's honesty always surprised her. At 6 years old, Ethan had an understanding of things that sometimes scared her. "The doctor is just worried about you, sweetheart, but we're the ones who decide about our family, okay?" "Okay." "But Mom, I have something to tell you." "What is it?" "Yesterday, when Grandma was sleeping, I held her hand and felt her squeeze back. Just a little, but I felt it." Jennifer took a deep breath. The doctors had already explained about involuntary reflexes, about how the brain sometimes sends signals that don't mean awareness. But how do you explain that to a child? "Ethan, sometimes Grandma's body might move in ways that don't mean she's awake. It's like when we dream and kick our legs." "But that's not what it was, Mom. I was talking about the day she taught me how to make a kite, and right when I said I missed her, she squeezed. I'm sure of it." The bus arrived just then, cutting the conversation short. On the way home, Jennifer watched Ethan through the window as he drew on the foggy glass. He always drew the same thing, a simple house, 2 big figures and 1 small one. family. At home, in the small kitchen of their Riverside apartment, Jennifer was making dinner when the phone rang. It was her sister Amanda, who lived in Chicago. "Jen, how's Mom doing?" "The same, Amanda. No changes." "Listen, I talked to a doctor friend here. He said after so much time like this, maybe it's better to start thinking about other options." "What other options?" "Bringing her home, maybe. Hospice care. Ethan can't keep seeing Grandma like this forever." "Why is everyone so worried about Ethan? He's fine." "Jen, don't get mad at me. It's just, sometimes we have to accept certain things and protect the kids." "Protect them from what? From loving? From hoping?" Amanda sighed on the other end. "That's not it. But think about it. You're spending money you don't have on bus fare every day, working yourself to the bone. And Ethan what? The neighbor told me he's been telling kids at school that Grandma's going to wake up. They're laughing at him, Jen." Jennifer's heart clenched. She hadn't known that. "Who told you that?" "Mrs. Barbara. Her son's in Ethan's class." After hanging up, Jennifer went to her son's room. Ethan was sitting on his bed, sorting his colored pencils by size. "Ethan, how's school going?" "Fine." "Nobody's saying anything about Grandma?" The boy stopped sorting and looked at his mom. "Some kids say Grandma's never going to wake up, that I'm dumb for believing it." "And what do you say?" "That they don't know my Grandma. She's strong, and that I promised to pray for a whole year, so I'm keeping my word." "Ethan, you don't have to prove anything to anyone, you know." "I know, Mom, but it's not to prove it. It's because I love Grandma." The next morning was Saturday, and Jennifer didn't have work. Still, Ethan woke up early and was already dressed when she got up. "Are we visiting Grandma today, Mom?" "Of course we are, sweetheart." At Mercy General Hospital, Saturdays were different. Fewer doctors, more families visiting patients. Ethan greeted Deborah, the senior nurse on the floor who always gave him a lollipop. "How's it going, champ?" "How many days now?" "Today's 2:14, Aunt Deborah. I forgot to count yesterday, but it was 2:13. "Wow, what a memory. How's the notebook coming along?" Ethan proudly showed her his notes. Deborah flipped through the pages gently. "You know, Ethan, in 30 years working at this hospital, I've never seen dedication like yours. Grandma deserves it, right?" "She sure does. Want me to tell you a secret?" The boy's eyes lit up. "Yes. Sometimes when you're talking to your grandma, I see the monitors show her heart beating a little faster, like she's listening to you." Jennifer looked at the nurse in surprise. "Really, Deborah? Really? It's not much, and it might not mean anything medically, but it always happens when Ethan is here." Ethan smiled with all the energy of his 6 years. "I knew she could hear me." In the room, Margaret lay in her usual position, grey hair spread across the pillow, pale skin, her breathing assisted by the machine. Ethan approached the bed and placed his small hand over hers, as he did every day. "Hi, Grandma. Today's Saturday, so I came early. I brought something special to show you." He pulled a folded sheet of paper from his backpack. "Remember when you taught me how to make paper airplanes? I made one just like you showed me. I'll leave it here on your nightstand for when you wake up, so we can play." Jennifer watched the scene, moved. The purity of her son's faith touched her deeply, but it also worried her. What if he was traumatized if things didn't change? "Ethan, can I talk to you outside for a minute?" In the hallway, mother and son sat on the familiar blue bench. "Sweetheart, I want you to know something. No matter what happens with Grandma, you're a very special boy, and the love you have for her has already made a big difference." "Why are you saying this, Mom?" "Because sometimes things don't happen the way we want, even when we do everything right." Ethan thought for a few seconds, swinging his legs. "Mom, remember when I was learning to ride a bike?" "I do." "You said I'd fall a lot before I got it, but if I didn't give up, I'd get there eventually." "I did. And I did fall, scraped my knee, cried, but I didn't quit. And in the end, I made it. You did. So why should it be different with Grandma?" Jennifer didn't know how to respond. A child's simple, pure logic was often wiser than all the complexity of the adult world. Back in the room, Ethan resumed his one-sided conversations with his grandmother. He told her about his week at school, the cat that showed up in the backyard, the drawing he'd made of her in art class. Jennifer watched him, noticing how naturally he spoke, as if Margaret were responding. "Oh, Grandma, I almost forgot. Monday is Mrs. Barbara's birthday, our neighbor. Remember her? The one who always borrows sugar?" At that moment, something strange happened. One of the machines beeped differently than usual. Jennifer looked at the screen and saw the heart monitor showing a slight acceleration. "Ethan, did you see that?" "See what, Mom?" "Grandma's heart beat faster when you mentioned Mrs. Barbara." Ethan grinned. She always thought Mrs. Barbara was funny, said she borrowed sugar but never paid it back. Again, the monitor reacted with a small change. Jennifer felt a chill. Was it a coincidence? "Ethan, say something else about people Grandma knew." "Like who?" "I don't know." "Your grandpa." Ethan's face turned serious. His grandfather had passed when he was only 3, but Margaret had always told stories about her husband. "Grandpa Richard liked fishing, right, Grandma? And you always got mad because he took forever to come home." The monitor beeped rapidly. Margaret's heart was racing. Jennifer rushed into the hallway and called Deborah. "Deborah, come see this. The machines are reacting when Ethan says certain things." The nurse hurried over and studied the monitor. "Ethan, say something to your grandma." "What should I say?" "Anything. Tell her a story." "Grandma, remember the day you taught me to make cornbread? You said the secret was not to stir the batter too much or it'd turn out tough." The beeping intensified again. Deborah looked at Jennifer with an expression mixing surprise and hope. "This isn't normal. I'll call Dr. Michael." Minutes later, the young doctor entered the room in a hurry, eyes fixed on the monitors. "What's going on here?" "Doctor, whenever Ethan says certain specific things, Mrs. Margaret's heart rate speeds up," Deborah explained. "What kind of things?" "Memories, people she knew, moments they shared." Dr. Michael Williams watched the monitors carefully. "Ethan, can you tell your grandmother a story? Something you used to do together?" The boy looked at all the adults watching him and felt a little intimidated. "Can I tell her about when she used to take me to the park?" "Of course," the doctor said, adjusting his position for a better view of the screens. "Grandma, remember the park near home? You always brought bread to feed the pigeons, and I'd get scared when they flew close to me. Then you'd say they just wanted to be my friends." The heart monitor showed a clear and steady increase. Dr. Williams stared at the numbers in disbelief. "This is unusual." "Unusual how?" Jennifer asked. "The cardiac response pattern suggests she might be processing auditory information. Not necessarily consciously, but there's activity." "What does that mean?" "It means we might need to run some additional tests." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now continuing. The following Monday, Margaret underwent a series of new neurological tests, MRI, EEG, stimulus response exams. Ethan waited anxiously in the hallway, counting on his fingers. "Today is day 216, Mom." "I know, sweetheart. 149 more to finish the year." Dr. Williams stepped out of the exam room with an expression unlike his usual one, more hopeful. "Jennifer, can we talk?" In his office, he opened Margaret's file and showed her some results. The tests showed brain activity we hadn't detected before. It's minimal, but it's there. "What does that mean?" "It means your mother might be more present than we thought. Her brain could be trying to recover very slowly. Could she wake up?" "I can't promise anything, Jennifer, but now we have scientific grounds to be cautiously optimistic." "What about Ethan?" "Ethan?" The doctor smiled for the first time since they'd met. "Ethan might have been the first to notice signs that we, with all our technology, were missing." Jennifer left the office with her heart pounding. She didn't know if she felt relief or fear of hoping too much. "So, Mom, what did the doctor say?" "He said Grandma might be doing better than we thought." Ethan's eyes lit up. "Didn't I tell you, she always listens to me." That afternoon in Margaret's room, Ethan was especially excited. "Grandma, the doctor said you're getting better, that maybe you really can hear my stories." He opened his notebook and showed her his drawings. Look, here's us playing checkers. Here's you teaching me to knit. And here's the day you wake up. The last drawing showed two figures holding hands, one big, one small, both smiling. When you wake up, Grandma, we'll do all this again, and I'll tell you every story that happened while you were sleeping. Jennifer watched from the armchair nearby when the phone rang. It was Amanda. Jen, I need to tell you something. I talked to my boss here in Chicago. He said there's a janitorial assistant opening at his company. The pay's better than in Den. Amanda, I can't leave Denver now. Mom's in the hospital here. But Jen, think about it. With better pay, you could afford a better hospital for her. Bring her later. What about Ethan? He'd have to switch schools, leave his friends. Ethan will adjust. Kids adapt easily. Jennifer looked at her son, who was still talking to his grandmother, and felt her chest tighten. Would it be selfish of her to keep Ethan in that routine? Or was it love? I'll think about it, Amanda. Don't take too long to decide, okay? The spot won't stay open forever. When she hung up the phone, Ethan was looking at her with concern. Mom, are you okay? Yes, sweetheart. Why? You had that look you get when you're worried. Sometimes Jennifer forgot how observant Ethan was. It's just grown-up stuff. Nothing for you to worry about. If it's about Grandma, I already told you she's going to get better. You can trust me. I do trust you, Ethan. I trust you more than anyone else in the world. That night at home, Jennifer stayed up late thinking about her sister's offer. Financially, it made sense, but how could she explain to Ethan that they'd have to leave his grandmother just when she was starting to show signs of improvement? The next day was Tuesday, day 217. Ethan arrived at the hospital especially chatty. Grandma, today I learned a new song at school. The teacher said it's about family. Want me to sing it for you? He began humming a simple melody, slightly off-key but full of affection. It was a song about a little bird who got lost from its family and then found its way back. During the song, something extraordinary happened. A small tear rolled down Margaret's face. Ethan stopped singing. Mom! Mom! Grandma's crying! Jennifer rushed over. It was true. A single tear had welled up in the corner of Margaret's eye and was slowly trickling down her cheek. Grandma, you can hear me, right? You're in there. Ethan held his grandmother's hand with both of his little hands. If you can hear me, squeeze my hand, just a little. It can be really soft. Jennifer watched, holding her breath. For a few seconds, nothing happened. Then, almost imperceptibly, Margaret's fingers twitched slightly. She squeezed. Mum, she squeezed my hand. This time, Jennifer didn't question it. She had seen it with her own eyes. Ethan, keep talking to her. Grandma, I knew you were there. I knew it. I come here every day because I know you hear every word. Another tear rolled down Margaret's face. Grandma, if you want me to keep coming here every day, squeeze my hand again. The response came faster this time, a weak but noticeable squeeze. Ethan began crying with joy. Mom, call the doctor. Grandma's waking up. When Dr. Michael arrived, he observed Margaret for several minutes, performing simple response tests. Margaret, if you can hear me, try to squeeze my hand. Nothing happened. Margaret, my name is Dr. Michael. I've been taking care of you for months. If you can hear me, give me a sign. Again, no response. The doctor looked at Jennifer with a puzzled expression. Ethan, can you try again? The boy stepped closer to the bed. Grandma, it's me, Ethan. Do you want me to sing that song again? Immediately, Margaret's fingers moved. Dr. Michael watched the scene with scientific fascination. She responds specifically to Ethan. Why? Jennifer asked. I don't know. Maybe the emotional connection is stronger. Maybe his voice is more familiar, or maybe... He paused, thoughtful. Maybe what? Maybe his constant presence all these days has created a neural bridge that still works. Ethan looked at the doctor with his big, curious eyes. Doctor, does that mean my prayers worked? Doctor, Michael knelt to be at the boy's level. Ethan, I think you did much more than pray. You never gave up on your grandmother, and sometimes that makes all the difference. In the days that followed, Margaret continued responding to Ethan's prompts. Small movements, occasional tears, changes in heart rate, but only when Ethan was speaking to her. The doctors began an intensive stimulation protocol, always with Ethan as the central element. He told stories, sang songs, read children's books, described the weather outside. On day 225, something new happened. Ethan was recounting a trip they'd taken to the zoo years ago when Margaret slightly turned her head toward his voice. "Mom!" She turned her head. She looked at me. Jennifer came closer, but Margaret's eyes remained closed. "Ethan, tell her more about the zoo. Remember the monkeys, Grandma? You said they were funny because they made faces just like Grandpa Richard when he had a stomachache." Margaret's lips curved slightly, almost imperceptible, but it was there, the hint of a smile. Ethan jumped for joy. She smiled. Grandma smiled. Dr. Michael, who had become a constant presence during these sessions, noted everything on his clipboard. "Jennifer, I'll be honest with you. In 10 years of medicine, I've never seen anything like this. In a good way, in the best possible way. Your mother is responding in a manner that defies everything we know about this type of brain trauma." That afternoon, when Ethan finished his daily conversation with his grandmother, Jennifer made a decision. "Ethan, I need to tell you something important." "What is it, Mom?" "Aunt Amanda offered me a job in Chicago. A better job, one that pays more." Ethan's face fell. "What about Grandma?" "Grandma? I don't know how we'd manage." "Mom, Grandma is getting better. You saw it." "She listens to me," she responds. "How can we leave now?" "Ethan, I know it's hard to understand, but sometimes adults have to make decisions with the future in mind. But Grandma's future is here, with me talking to her every day. If I leave, who will keep saying the prayers?" Jennifer felt her heart break. How could she explain the financial complexities of adulthood to a 6-year-old? "Sweetheart, you know Mommy works hard to pay for our things, right?" "I know. Sometimes to afford the important things, we have to make sacrifices. But Mom, isn't Grandma an important thing?" "She's the most important thing in the world, Ethan, but then why can't we stay here with her?" Jennifer couldn't answer. Ethan was right. How could she even consider leaving Margaret just when there were real signs of improvement? "You know what, sweetheart? We'll stay. We'll figure out the money, but we'll stay." Ethan ran to hug his mother. "Thank you, Mom. Grandma will be so happy when she finds out." "How do you know she'll be happy?" "Because when I told her we might leave, she cried. But it was a sad tear, not a happy one." "When did you tell her that?" "Yesterday, when you went to talk to the doctor. I told her we might have to go to Chicago, and she cried a lot." Jennifer realized she hadn't noticed Margaret's tears the day before. She'd been so preoccupied with practical matters that she'd missed her mother's emotional reaction. "What else did you tell her?" "I said I'd ask you not to go, that she was getting better and needed us here." That night, Jennifer called Amanda and turned down the job offer. It would be hard to manage on her current salary, but some things in life were more important than money. On day 230, Ethan arrived at the hospital with news. "Grandma, today I brought something special for you." He pulled out a small music box from his backpack, a gift they'd received years ago. It had a ballerina that danced to a sweet melody. "Remember this little box? You gave it to me on my 4th birthday. You said that when I was sad I just had to play the music and it would remind me that you loved me." Ethan opened the little box and the melody began to play. The tiny ballerina spun slowly as the music filled the room. Suddenly, Margaret opened her eyes. Ethan nearly dropped the music box. "Mom! Mom!" Grandma opened her eyes. Jennifer, who was reading a magazine in the armchair, jumped up and ran to the bed. "Mom! Mom! Can you hear me?" Margaret's eyes moved slowly until they met Jennifer's face. She blinked once, slowly. "Ethan, get the doctor! Hurry!" Ethan sprinted down the hallway, shouting, "Dr. Michael! Dr. Michael!" Grandma woke up. Grandma opened her eyes. When the doctor arrived, followed by a team of nurses, Margaret was still awake, looking straight at Jennifer. "Margaret, can you see me? If you can, blink once." She blinked. "Margaret, Do you know where you are? She looked around slowly and blinked again. Margaret, do you recognize this boy? The doctor pointed to Ethan. Margaret's eyes moved to Ethan and she tried to smile, a small, weak smile, but real. Ethan stepped closer to the bed, holding his grandmother's hand. Grandma, it's me. Ethan, do you remember me? Margaret squeezed her grandson's hand tighter than she had in all the days before. Grandma, do you remember how many days I've come here to talk to you? Margaret shook her head slightly, indicating she didn't know. Today is day 230, Grandma. There are 135 days left to make it a year, but now you're awake, so I guess I can stop counting, right? Margaret shook her head from side to side as if saying no. Ethan laughed. You want me to keep counting until it's a full year? Margaret blinked yes. Then it's a deal. I'll keep coming here every day until we reach 365 days. Then we'll go home and I'll mark the days there. Dr. Michael watched the interaction with both medical and human fascination. Jennifer, your mother will need a lot of time to fully recover. Physical therapy, speech therapy, relearning basic functions. It will be a long process. But will she recover? Based on what I saw today, and the determination that runs in your family, I'd say the chances are very good. Ethan looked at the doctor. Doctor, do you still think I was hurting myself by coming here every day? The doctor smiled and knelt to be at the boy's level. Ethan, I think you've taught me a very important lesson about medicine. Sometimes the most powerful medicine doesn't come from a pill bottle. Where does it come from? It comes from the heart. It comes from never giving up on the people we love. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now, continuing. The next 2 months were intense recovery. Margaret began responding more quickly to stimuli, managed to move her arms and legs, and even made some sounds. Ethan kept up his daily routine, no longer as an act of faith, but as an active part of his grandmother's treatment. On day 280, Margaret spoke her first word since the stroke. Ethan. The boy was telling her about a school play he was in when he heard the weak but clear voice. Ethan. He stopped talking and looked at his grandmother. Grandma? You said my name? Ethan? She repeated, struggling but clearly. Mom? Grandma said my name? Grandma spoke. Jennifer came running from the hallway, where she'd been talking to a nutritionist about Margaret's diet. What is it, Ethan? She said my name twice. Jennifer leaned closer to her mother. Mom? Can you speak? Margaret looked at her daughter, opened her mouth with effort and whispered, Jen. Oh my God. Mom! Jennifer began to cry, holding her mother's hand. Mom, we were so afraid of losing you. Margaret squeezed her daughter's hand and with great effort whispered, left. What, Mom? Ethan moved closer. She's saying she never left, Mom. She was always here, listening to us. Margaret looked at Ethan and managed a faint smile. My boy. Ethan held his grandmother's hands. Grandma, do you remember all the stories I told you? Everything. Even the prayers? All of them. Ethan hugged his grandmother as carefully as his small hands allowed. I love you so much, Grandma. I'll never stop talking to you. I love you too. When Dr. Michael heard about her progress, he came immediately to examine Margaret. The tests showed her cognitive functions were recovering rapidly. It's remarkable. Her recovery speed is far above average for cases like this. What do you attribute that to? Asked Jennifer. I believe Ethan's constant stimulation over these months kept neural connections active that would normally be lost. It's as if her brain never completely stopped working. Ethan, who was organizing his crayons to draw a new picture for his grandmother, asked, Doctor, does that mean talking to people sleeping in the hospital always works? Not always, Ethan. But in your grandmother's case, it clearly did. And do you know why? Why? Because you never gave up. You talked to her like she was always awake. That made all the difference. On day 300, Margaret could already speak simple sentences and move her arms with more coordination. Ethan arrived at the hospital especially excited. "Grandma, I brought a surprise today." "What surprise?" "I learned to knit. Remember how you always said you'd teach me?" Ethan pulled out a small, uneven knitted piece from his backpack, full of flaws, but made with love. "It's not very good, but Mrs. Betty, our neighbor, taught me." Margaret took the small piece with trembling hands and examined it tenderly. "It's a bow, tiffle, my love. When you leave the hospital, will you teach me to do better?" "I'll teach you everything." Jennifer watched the interaction between grandmother and grandson, realizing how Margaret's recovery was being fueled by her motivation to be present in Ethan's life. "Mum, the doctors said maybe in about 2 months you can go home." "Ally? Really? You'll go home and continue treatment there?" Ethan jumped with joy. "Grandma, when you come home, can I sleep in your room sometimes? Like before?" "Anytime. You want? And will we fly kites together?" "We will. And will you teach me to make cornbread?" "I'll teach you everything. I didn't." At that moment, Margaret began to cry, not tears of sadness, but of gratitude. "Why am I crying?" she asked herself. Ethan held her hand. "Because you're happy, Grandma, like how I cry when I'm really happy." "That's act lie it." Jennifer joined the hug between grandmother and grandson. "Mom, Ethan never doubted you'd come back, not even for a single day." Margaret looked at Ethan with deep emotion. "Thank you, my and Jell." "What for, Grandma?" "For giving up on me." Ethan thought for a moment. "Grandma, how could I give up? You're my grandma. We don't give up on people we love." On day 350, Margaret could already sit up in bed by herself and form complete sentences, though slowly. Ethan arrived at the hospital looking more serious than usual. "Grandma, today is day 350. Only 15 days left until it's been a year. And so I was thinking, when I complete 1 year, I won't need to come every day anymore, right?" Margaret got worried. "You don't want to come anymore?" "It's not that I don't want to. It's just that when you were asleep, I promised to come for a whole year. But now you're awake, you're talking to me, so I think I've kept my promise." Margaret thought for a few seconds. "Then do you think a promise has an expiration date?" Ethan laughed at his grandmother's elaborate question. "What do you mean, Grandma?" "When we love someone, a promise has no end." "So you're saying I have to come here forever?" "Not here, but visit your grandma." "Yes." Ethan understood. "Oh, you mean even after you leave the hospital, I keep visiting you at home?" Act lie. "But I was going to do that anyway. I live with you, silly." Margaret laughed, a sound no one had heard in almost a year. "Then it's set." On day 365, exactly 1 year since Ethan had started his prayer routine, he arrived at the hospital with his notebook completely filled. Each page showed the drawings marking the days, evolving from simple scribbles to more elaborate sketches as Ethan grew and developed over that year. "Grandma, today is the last day of the year I promised." "Show me the notebook." Ethan opened the notebook to the first page, revealing a simple drawing of 2 figures, one lying down and one standing. "This is from the first day. I wasn't very good at drawing yet." He flipped through the pages, showing the progression of the sketches. "Here you are with your eyes closed, here with them open, here the 2 of us playing, and here..." He reached the last page. "Here's us at home." The final drawing showed a small house, a garden with flowers, and 2 figures holding hands, both smiling. "Grandma, do you think I did the right thing, praying and talking to you all these days?" Margaret cupped her grandson's face with both hands. As then you saved me. Me? When I was lost in the dark, your voice was the light that showed me the way back. Ethan didn't fully understand the words, but he understood the feeling. Grandma, now that I've finished the year, can I ask you for something? What would you like? When you go home, will you teach me everything you know? Knitting, cooking, gardening, everything. Why? Because when I grow up, I want to teach my kids. That way your recipes and tricks will never end. Margaret began to cry with emotion. My wise boy. And there's one more thing. What? Ethan pulled a small wrapped box from his backpack. I got you a gift. Well, actually, Mom bought it, but with the money I saved from my snacks. Margaret carefully opened the box. Inside was a simple little bracelet with a heart-shaped charm. Ethan, you didn't have... Yes, I did. Because now when you're at home and I'm at school, you can look at this bracelet and remember I'm always thinking of you. Margaret put the bracelet on her wrist with Ethan's help. Now, I'll never forget this year. Me neither, Grandma. It was the most important year of my life. Jennifer, who had been watching the whole scene in silence, stepped closer. Ethan, do you want to tell Grandma the news? What news? About Thursday. Ethan grinned. Oh, right. Grandma, on Thursday you're going home. The doctor said you're well enough to finish treatment at home now. Real lie? Really? And you know the best part? What? Thursday is day 367, 2 days after I finished my year of promise. As if it were a gift for keeping my promise, Margaret hugged Ethan with all the strength she could muster. You are the best grandson in the world. And you're the best grandma in the world, even when you were asleep. That afternoon, when Ethan finished his last official visit to the hospital, he said goodbye to all the nurses, Dr. Michael, and even the cleaning staff he'd met over the past year. Aunt Deborah, thank you so much for always giving me lollipops and letting me stay past visiting hours. Thank you, Ethan. You taught me so much about never giving up on people. Dr. Michael, thank you for taking such good care of my grandma. Ethan, thank you for showing me that medicine isn't just science. Sometimes it's love, too. Mr. George, Ethan turned to the security guard. Thank you for always greeting me when I arrived. God be with you, son. You're an example to us all. On Thursday, the day of Margaret's discharge, the entire hospital mobilized for a small farewell. Nurses, doctors, cleaning staff, even other patients who knew their story, gathered in the lobby to say goodbye. Ethan pushed Margaret's wheelchair. She still needed help walking long distances. Grandma, look how many people came to say goodbye. Because our right touched. So night hearts. Our story? Your right of never giving up. Dr. Michael approached for the final farewell. Margaret, it was a privilege to be part of your recovery. And Ethan, he knelt to meet the boy at eye level. You taught me more about medicine in 1 year than medical school did in 6. What did I teach you, Doctor? That sometimes the best medicine is simply not giving up on those we love. Ethan thought about this. Doctor, can I tell you something? Of course. I never thought I was teaching anything. I was just following my heart. And that's exactly what you taught me, Ethan, to listen to my heart. As they left the hospital, Ethan looked back one last time. Grandma, are you sad to leave? No, I'm happy to go home with you. Me too. But you know what? What? If you ever get sick again, I'll take care of you. No matter where, no matter how long. What if I get very old and forget things? Ethan held his grandmother's hand. If you forget, I'll remember for you. I'll tell you all our stories as many times as needed. What if I can't talk anymore? Then I'll talk for both of us, like I did at the hospital." Margaret smiled with tears in her eyes. "How did I get such a special boy?" "I think we both got lucky, Grandma. You and me both." At home, Ethan helped settle Margaret into her room, organizing her medicines, making her bed, and placing a photo of them from their last hospital day on her nightstand. "Grandma, now that you're home, how should we do our daily talks?" "What do you mean? Can I keep telling you stories every day? Not stories to wake you up, but stories to make you smile?" "Of course. And can you tell me stories too? Stories from when you were little, when Grandpa was alive, when Mom was a child." "I can, and I want to." Ethan climbed onto the bed and snuggled next to his grandmother, just like before the stroke. "Grandma, can I tell you something?" "Yes. This whole year I was never afraid you wouldn't wake up." "Never? Never, because I could feel you there, listening. Even when the adults said you couldn't hear, I knew you could." Do you know? Because when you love someone very much, you can feel when they're near, even if they can't respond." Margaret hugged Ethan tighter. "My clay, ver, and bra, ver, boy. I'm not brave, Grandma. I just love you. It's the same thing." That night, for the first time in a year, Ethan slept in his own bed in his own room. But before falling asleep, he went to his grandmother's room. "Grandma, are you okay? I'm If you need anything during the night, call me." "I will. I promise. Promise." "Then good night, Grandma. I love you." "Love you too. My Angel." Ethan returned to his room, but left the door slightly ajar so he could hear if his grandmother needed anything. In the following months, Margaret continued her recovery at home. Ethan kept his routine of talking to her every day, but now the conversations were different. No longer hopeful prayers, but dialogues of companionship. She taught him how to knit properly, cook her favorite recipes, and care for the plants in their small backyard garden. Ethan, in turn, kept her updated on everything happening at school, in the neighborhood, and in life. 6 months after being discharged, Margaret was walking without assistance and speaking normally. Her recovery had been complete, something the doctors considered nearly miraculous. "Ethan," she said one afternoon as they knitted together on the porch, "do you know what the most important day of this whole year was?" "Which one, Grandma?" "The first." "Why?" "Because that was the day you decided not to give up on me. All the other days were a result of that decision." Ethan stopped knitting and looked at his grandmother. "Grandma, I could never give up on you. You're a part of me. And you're a part of me too, forever. Even when I grow up and have my own family, especially then. Because that's when you'll teach your children the same thing you taught me, that real love never gives up." Ethan smiled and resumed knitting. "Grandma, can I ask you something?" "Of course. When you were asleep in the hospital, do you remember anything?" "I remember everything, Ethan. Every story you told, every song you sang, every time you held my hand, even when I was sad and crying, especially then, because those were the moments I wanted most to comfort you, but I couldn't. What did it feel like? Like being in a dark room with no doors or windows. But every time you spoke to me, a little light appeared. The more you talked, the brighter it got. And the day you woke up? The day you opened that music box, the light became so bright it lit up the whole room. That's when I found the door back to you." Ethan grew thoughtful. "So my talking really helped you come back? Your words were the path, Ethan. Without them, I would have been lost forever in that dark room." That night, Ethan wrote in his journal something he never had before. "Today I understood that love isn't just a feeling. It's an action. It's choosing every day not to give up on the people who matter. It's speaking even when it seems no one is listening. It's believing even when everyone says not to. I learned this by taking care of Grandma. and I'll carry this lesson for the rest of my life. End of story. And you, dear listener, what did you think of Ethan and his grandmother Margaret's story? Have you ever been in a similar situation where love and persistence made all the difference? Share in the comments which part of the story moved you most. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss other touching stories like this one.